Austin, you're the one who requested all this. Tell us how you found out about these emails and what you've taken away from all of it.
Well, we started from the predicate that it was odd for the president's daughter to be working in the White House at all. And so we wanted to get a glimpse of what her government business looked like. What was she doing in violation of nepotism rules? So we went out to the federal agencies and we asked for her emails with cabinet officials and other senior political appointees. And what we got back was both government business proving that she was an employee and we saw it on her personal email. We proved that last year, and a lot of people shrugged. Okay, she used it occasionally. Now we know, thanks to the Washington Post, that her use was extensive, and the only reason she stopped was because American Oversight went to court to demand those records. She claimed she didn't know the rules, and I'm not sure there's anyone in the country, let alone the Trump family, who can claim they don't know the rules on government email. So we're seeing someone who thinks she's above the law.
All right, one of the biggest concerns about Hillary Clinton's emails is that they contained classified or sensitive information. Any indication of that here? I know Ivanka Trump's attorney spokesperson keeps saying it was all about logistics, travel, especially related to her family. Is that the case?
Well, let's start here. We are taking the word of someone who does not work for the American people. He works for Ivanka Trump. He owes a duty of loyalty to Ivanka Trump, and he is definitely in the mode of minimizing this moment. We don't yet know what review was done of whether these emails are classified. If you go back to March 10th, 2015, Hillary Clinton stood up in the UN and said none of my emails were marked classified. 2 years later, we saw that just because they weren't marked classified, just because she didn't think they were classified, didn't mean that national security professionals agreed with her. Have these emails that have been turned over been reviewed? I mean, he talks about logistics. What could be more security sensitive than the location of the first daughter? And we still don't know what wasn't turned over. They haven't articulated the standard that her lawyers used to go through her personal and official emails to decide what was in and what was out. If she's emailing folks about her personal opinions on foreign leaders, for example, even if they're not White House aides or government officials, that's probably a government record. And her candid opinions of foreign government officials is probably classified.
Back this up for me 1 second, because you made an important point right there. This isn't a government attorney. This isn't someone who represents the American people. It's Ivanka's own private attorney.
Yes, he's
Why
fighting
is she
for
working
her.
with a private attorney? Would it be normal practice for someone in the White House who an ethics there's an ethics issue around? Would they be working with a private attorney or a White House attorney?
So in the normal course, if you use your personal email for official business, you have the opportunity to get it into the official record system on your own. You don't need to go out and get a personal attorney. You don't need to go get ethics officials to help you do it. You just follow the rules. But here you've got a large extent of emails from Ivanka Trump. She's brought in a criminal defense lawyer to help her go through it, who has not articulated the standard. I think we're at a moment right now where we need to ask questions. We need Congress to step in. And I would point out that Trey Gowdy, who was Mr. Benghazi, who discovered Hillary's email account, is still the chairman of the Oversight Committee. We don't have to wait for Democrats. There is a standard of investigation that has already been established. And I think we need to ask questions. Ivanka can go in and ask questions privately. She can do so publicly. Clinton did it for 11 hours. Her lawyers can go up. There's just a lot we still need to know. And groups like American Oversight are going to doggedly push this from the outside to ensure Congress upholds its obligations. And hopefully the White House will answer some questions.
Oh, well, Austin, I know we're going to keep asking.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.